Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the vlog, episode 27. This session took place on a Tuesday afternoon at Orange City Racing and Card Club, and it was the last session I was going to get in before the month of September came to an end. And September has not been great to me. I had a really big loss that I did not put out in the vlog, not because I'm trying to hide my losses, it just didn't make for a very interesting episode. So, trying to go in there and recoup a little bit and try to end this month in the black. I wasn't successful doing that in July or August, but hopefully we can do it here in September. The session did not start out very promising, though. I got stuck at a table full of old, tight, passive players. There was a lot of post-flop betting to $4 and $6 that was getting folds. Played a couple hands, one where a guy rivered two pair and took some money off of me, and another one where I flopped top pair and didn't really get paid off. And as I was sitting there about 35 minutes in, I heard this very recognizable laugh. And I look over my shoulder, and it's Ricky, aka Dick Richardson from episode 26, the home game. He was sitting at the table behind me playing, so I put in for a transfer to his table. I got seated at his table rather quickly, and it was a much different environment. The players there were wild. There was money flying all over the place, and it ended up making for a really interesting session. So let's get to it.
We were on the button when we looked down at Jack 9 offsuit. Plus one opens for $10. Plus one is an older woman who came from another table, and she appears to have about $350 to $400 in front of her. Plus two makes the call. Plus two wanted to play every pot with this little old lady in plus one, as he viewed himself the far superior player. So he calls. I call as well. The small blind also calls. We're off to a flop four ways. The flop is 7-10 ace with two diamonds, so I flopped a gut shot straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. The small blind checks and plus one bets $15. Plus two snap calls it. I call as well with my gut shot, and the small blind folds. We're off to a turn three ways. Before the turn is dealt, I literally said in my head, how about an 8 of clubs? The turn card is an 8 of clubs, so I've hit my straight. Plus one leads on this for $60. Listen and watch how fast plus two calls.
I call.
So with the action on me on this scary board, I decided to go ahead and rip it all in there. I'm all in for $163. The old lady in plus one ends up making the call, which prices plus two in. He says he doesn't want to call, but he kind of has to, so he makes the call. We're off to a river. The river is an ace of hearts, kind of a scary card pairing the board. Both players, however, check. So I show my hand. Plus one very confidently flips over ace king offsuit and was genuinely surprised that she didn't win the hand. Plus two mucked, but he later told me he had 7-8 for the turn two pair, and that ace on the river kind of killed his action. So scoop a pretty healthy pot in our direction. There's a button straddle. We're under the gun with ace queen of diamonds. The small blind folds and the big blind calls, and when the action's on me, I bump it up to $16. The button and the big blind both call, so we're off to a flop. The flop is 10 king 5 rainbow, and luckily for me, the action checks through, so we're off to the turn. The turn is another king. It's a good card for my range as the pre-flop aggressor, so the big blind checks it, and I bet out for $30. The button then comes over the top for $75 total. The guy on the button is a vlog watcher. I think his name is Tony. He's a pretty aggressive player. He likes to mix it up. When the action gets back on me, it's only $45 more to call, but if I do, I'm playing the river out of position, and any river that's not a jack, I'm pretty sure I can't win this hand, so I actually end up making a pretty tight fold here. He tells me he wants to make the vlog.
Show me it was a good fold.
Can you put on YouTube?
Huh?
On YouTube, please.
On YouTube? Oh, what a move. 6-4.
That's right, the old 6-4 for the bluff. Probably won't shock you to hear that he went broke about 90 minutes later. We're in the hijack this hand with pocket tens. Plus one is going to open the action for $10, and it folds all the way around to me, and I decide 10 isn't going to be enough, so I raise to $35. It folds back to plus one, who makes the call. We're off to the flop heads up. The flop is 10-4-7 with two spades. Plus one checks it over to me, and given that there's a flush draw and some straight draw possibilities, I want to protect my hand, so I bet out $60. He says he can't call, though, and he folds pretty quickly.
Oh, my God.
We're in the hijack again. We look down at ace-jack offsuit. Plus two opens the action for $7. I make the call, as does the small blind. We're off to the flop three ways. The flop is 7-8 jack, so I flop top pair here. The small blind, who's Tony, bets $7. +1 makes the call, and I put in the raise. I bump it up to $25. Both players make the call, so we're still going to a turn 3 ways. The turn's an interesting card. It's a 10, and the action checks over to me, and I decide to put a bet out, and I bet $50. Looking back, I think this bet size is really bad. There's around $90 in the pot, and I think to put real pressure on an opponent, I need to be closer to $70 with that bet. Not surprisingly, Tony snaps me off, and +2 folds. We're off to the river. The river is a 3 of diamonds, so it bricks out. He checks, and I decide to go ahead and just check and take my hand to showdown. I show, and he shows me 10 jack for the turn 2 pair. At least he let me off for cheap. So unlike where I started the day, the action at this table has been incredible. There is a ton of 3 betting going on, and it's not uncommon for hands to be $30 or $40 just to see a flop. I've taken my stack, which was up around $575, and I've run it down to about $375, opening for $15 and getting 3-bet repeatedly. And people aren't doing it light either. Tons of suited Broadway and high pocket pairs are being dealt. In what might be the most sad news of the vlog, I have no footage for this hand, but it's incredible. We're in the cutoff when we look down at 9-10 offsuit. Under the gun is going to open the action for $10. +1 makes the call, and it folds around to me. I make the call as well. The button and both blinds fold, so we're off to a flop 3 ways. The flop is 8-10-4 with 2 clubs. Under the gun leads again for $15. +1 makes the call, and the action is on me. I consider putting in a raise with my top pair, but I decide to go ahead and just call and evaluate a turn. The turn is a queen of diamonds, and once again, under the gun leads for $25. +1 then puts in the raise to $150. Now, this guy was calling every hand that under the gun was involved in. Didn't matter the raise size or what he had, he was getting money in against her all day. So, I don't put him on pocket 8s or pocket 4s or even 10-8. And unless he has Queen X specifically, then I think I can actually be good here. I also have a straight draw to fall back on as well, so I end up making the call. Under the gun folds, we're off to the river. The river's a magical card, it's another 10, and my opponent snap jams for about $188 effective. I, of course, call very quickly. I show my hand, and he is not happy as he angrily flips over Queen 8. His name is David, he's a new subscriber. He's a lot of fun, he's really good for the game. Sorry, David. I think your desire to play hands against under the gun clouded your judgment a little and made you lose focus on others in the hand. You made me well aware that I got my money in bad, but I wasn't wrong about what I put you on, at least before the turn. We're in the small blind and we look down at ace-queen offsuit. Under the gun calls before +1 raises to $10, +2 calls, and I should be raising here, but I'll be playing the hand out of position post-flop, so I actually just call. Under the gun calls as well, we're off to the flop 4 ways. The flop is ace-queen jack, so I've flopped top 2 on this super connected board. It checks to +1 who bets $35. +2 actually folds here, and when the action's on me, I raise to $70. A little bit of a misclick. I thought I had grabbed 85. This is why you should always verbalize your bets. Under the gun makes the fold and it's back on +1, and she thinks about it, but eventually she actually ends up finding the fold.
I know you had ace king.
We're in the small blind this hand when we look down at 8-9 offsuit. +1 makes the call and it folds around to the hijack who raises to $6. It folds over to me and I decide to go ahead and make the call, as does +1. We're off to a flop 3 ways. The flop is 8-7-2, so I've caught a piece here. The action checks through, so we're off to the turn. The turn is another 7, so it pairs the board. When the action gets to me, I decide to go ahead and lead for $15. +1 is my only caller, so we're off to a river heads up. The river is the ace of diamonds. This is probably a really good card for me to bluff on, but I actually end up making the check here. Luckily, +1 checks behind. He shows pocket 5s, and I show my hand, and I win. Just one of those situations where I didn't trust my gut. I definitely could have put in a bet on the river and gotten him to fold his hand, but not that big a deal since I ended up winning the hand anyways. This hand is absolutely bananas. I'm in the big blind with 3-6 offsuit. The hand's been called all the way around to the small blind, and I make the comment asking if it's going to be a family pot. The small blind does in fact just call, so I check. We're off to a flop 7 ways. The flop is king 4-8, and the action checks all the way through, so we're off to a turn. The turn is a 5, so now I've picked up a gut shot straight draw. The small blind leads for $15. I think this is a good price for me to continue with my draw, so I call. Everybody else folds. We're off to the river heads up. The river is a 7, so I've gotten there with my straight, though 6-9 does technically beat me. The small blind leads for $45 here. I try to look a little bit uncomfortable, and then I put in the raise to $115. It's back on him, and I make the comment,
I don't think your club plus draw is good.
and he snap jams on me for $431 total.
All in.
Now I am uncomfortable. 6-9 is the only hand that beats me, but it was a limped pot, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. We're most likely playing for a chop, but you guys watch this vlog. You've seen me donk away a bunch of chips right at the end of the night before I'm getting ready to leave. After some thought, I end up making the call, and he doesn't immediately show his hand. So I announce a straight and show mine, and he shows pocket 7s for the rivered set.
Wow, what a gross river. Holy shit.
An absolutely gross river. A gross re-raise by him, but I'm happy to be on the winning end and scooping this $900 pot in my direction.
It really is.
I'm like, he's got 6-9 of clubs.
We're in the hijack this time, and we look down at pocket 9s. Under the gun makes the call, and it folds all the way around to me, and I bump it up to $10. The cutoff calls, the big blind calls, and under the gun calls, so we're off to a flop 4 ways. The flop is 9-7-5 with 2 spades, so flop top set on a super connected board here. It checks to under the gun, who bets $17. When the action's on me, I bump it up to 50. I actually meant to make it 45.
Misclick, supposed to be 45.
It folds all the way back around to under the gun, who then shoves for $61 total. So I obviously call here. The board runs out clean, and it's another win for me. We're under the gun this time, and we look down at ace-king offsuit. I open the action for $12, plus 1 makes the call, the button calls, and then the small blind raises to $55. He's got about $700 behind too. So he's got a pretty big stack over there. This is definitely a situation where I could 4-bet, but again, being out of position and seeing how deep he is, I actually just end up making the call here. Plus 1 folds, and the button calls all in for less, about $39. So we're off to a flop 3 ways with 1 all in. The flop comes queen high, and the small blind then down bets to $15, which is really weird. How do you 3-bet 55 pre-flop, and then with a pot of about $150 bet 10%? So I'm getting an excellent price. I go ahead and make the call. We're off to the turn. The turn is a jack, so now I've picked up a straight draw to go along with my 2 overs, and the small blind slows down and checks. I consider a bet here, but I decide to go ahead and check and take the river for free. What a great river it is. It's the 10 of spades, and the small blind once again checks. So I bet out $40 for value. The small blind doesn't think too long and he makes the fold. I show my hand, and the all-in button actually had king 10. So another hand coming in my direction. In the last hand of the night, there's a button straddle. We're in the hijack with pocket 10s again. There are 2 callers before the action gets to me, and I bump it up to $25. The cutoff then raises all in for $33 total. The button calls and plus 1 calls, so naturally I call the additional $8. We're off to a flop 4 ways. The flop is 7-6 deuce. The action checks to me, and I bet $60 on this card. The button folds, but plus 1 makes the call. We're off to the turn. The turn is another 7, so it pairs the board, and plus 1 checks to me again. I should probably be betting here again, but I feel pretty confident in the strength of my hand, and so I decide to go ahead and check back and see a river. The river is a 9, so kind of a scary card because there's some straight draws that can get there, but once again my opponent checks it over to me. So now I'm confident I have the best hand between plus 1 and myself, so I bet out for $75. My opponent goes into the tank. He cannot put me on a hand and has no idea if he's way ahead or way behind. After about 45 seconds, he ends up making the call. I show my hand and he mucks. All in shows pocket kings to win the main pot, but I win the side pot. After that, we started losing members of the table and the action started to die down, so I decided to go ahead and rack up and book a great win.
Gorgeous night on a pretty awesome day. The Look Good, Play Good tour rolls on with another successful stop. Didn't start out that way. The night started very slow, and it was just a super tight, super passive table. And I thought, oh shit, this is gonna make for a long vlog tonight. Then I heard that totally recognizable, indistinctable laugh. A laugh that could only belong to one Dick Richardson. And so I saw he was at another table, put in for the change. I got over there, but it turns out he had to leave shortly after I got there, so we didn't get to mix it up at all. But man, that table was just the polar opposite of where I started the night. So much action, just so many aggressive players. Had a little bit of run good and a little bit of luck go my way. Then I actually started losing some money back, and I was a little bit concerned. Then, I don't know, a couple hours into it, something just, the switch flipped, and all of a sudden I couldn't miss, and I was running really good, and I was playing really good. So all in all, a very, very good session. Into the game for $260, out for $14.92. Not just the year that Columbus sailed the ocean, but also my total tonight. If you enjoy, make sure you like and subscribe. See you next time.
If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more poker content. And you can follow me on Instagram at 7cardflushpoker.